The Daily Dispatch celebrated its 50th year since it was established in 1872. Well-wishers from the Eastern Cape and beyond. The event was graced by Nkosinathi Biko, the son of the father of black consciousness, Bantu Biko, the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Lubabalo Oscar Mabuyane, Health MEC Nomakhosa Zanameth, Special Advisor to the Premier, Dr. Tobile Mbengashe, the Borakai Chamber of Business Executive Director Lizelle Morris, the Black Business Forum President Lutando Bacha, and BBF Secretary Vukile Pogwana, the BCMDA CEO, Ulumko Nelan, ex-Dispatch Senior Reporter Ray Huttle, Samkelo Ngwenya, former editors Bungalwa, Bongani Skoko, John and Peter Tutoy from Rhodes University, businessman Zoliletini and his wife Koli Swatini, and a throng of government officials and communications specialists who deal with the Daily Dispatch almost daily. The Stwecha brothers, Lwandile and Vusiwekaya, Ncedo Kumbaxa, Luzuko Bhuku, Khuselwa Rantyi, Yonela Tegeda, Velisile Bukula, Thabisa Mtengwana, Ayanda Khamncwana, Andile Nduna, Anele Sondlo, the CEO of East London IDZ, Mr. Simphiwe Kondlo, of course, the host Ryan Magua, the Daily Dispatch General Manager, Shore N. James, the Editor-in-Chief, Dominic Peel, Bongani Fuzile Lutwe, that marketing guy who made sure that I attend, Vuyani Bungu, the Beast, Zolani Tete, Sivenati Nonchinga, the youngest world champion, the new junior flyweight champion, Sijuda Junior, Vuyan Sidini, the Terris Ndutu, and many, many more. Almost 1,000 people graced the occasion. I have all the names registered on my mind. I won't mention myself in solidarity of the cadres that I may have forgotten. This special occasion was directed by Padko Mafani Galanga Uchawe. Nets music kept everyone entertained the whole night. The guests were also treated to a documentary depicting a rare relationship between a newsmaker and the editor, Steve Biko and Donald Woods, a touching journey that left some eyes wet, including mine. This was a highlight of the day. Sikhalela indoda yamadoda.
important stakeholder here called reliable resources. When I came in here, I was moving around looking for any suspicious people who probably would be called reliable resources. I couldn't find one. Thank you very much. Good evening to you all. Master of Ceremonies, I'm here to join all of you on behalf of our provincial government to celebrate this important 150th anniversary of the Daily Dispatch. I must say, you all look good and great tonight. Surely the picture editor of the Daily Dispatch will find it difficult to get the best picture out of here. But of course, because of your copy sharing agreements with your sister publications, you're surely going to find all of us there. But just make sure that the premier, because also the podium says the premier's podium, but make sure that the premier is on the front page this time around for good reason. On a serious note, the provincial government, as provincial government, we are humbled by the invite to grace this august occasion. The Daily Dispatch has been an integral part of the Eastern Cape and South African life for 150 years now. So Dispatch is part of our DNA and we can't do anything about it. It must be one of the oldest companies that probably are still existing even post-COVID. You wake up tomorrow and look for it. Even though you took a decision that I'm not going to read Dispatch again in my life. But something says you must go and look for Dispatch. So that's how Dispatch is so important to us. It's really part of our heritage.
Shirley joined the Dispatch in 2007, that's 15 years ago, as a council reporter. In her 15 years at the paper, she has held a number of positions, including news editor, managing editor, executive editor, and deputy editor. She was appointed the editor of the newspaper in July 2020. Shirley, won't you come over here, please?
Good evening. Everyone looks lovely this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I was amazed at the turnout and seeing all the leaders from the various sectors here. So I just wanted to thank you for taking the time and spending this day with us. As the program director said, I was offered the editor's chair in July 2020, and it was very emotional. It was via Zoom because we were all working from home, and my family walked in on me crying. I was overcome with emotion, and it was twofold. Number one, I felt immensely proud that the management team, had the confidence in me to offer me this very important role. But it terrified me because of the legacy of the Daily Dispatch. And I thought of all the editors that walked before me at 35 Caxton in East London. And I knew that I had big shoes to fill. So, sorry. And for me, it was an especially profound moment because I'm this young girl from Parkside in East London. And I was given an opportunity to lead a newspaper the caliber of the Daily Dispatch. So the reason why I'm standing before you this evening is essentially just to say that we will continue with the work that we are doing. I know sometimes, Premier, we spoke about this earlier, sometimes the news doesn't always sit right and, we rub people up the wrong way. But just know that the Daily Dispatch is a newspaper that is deeply entrenched in the communities of the Eastern Cape. And our job as the newspaper is not simply to print words on paper. Our job is to be a voice for those who do not have a voice, for the forgotten, for the downtrodden. And I believe that as a newspaper over the years, we have excelled in being that voice of the people. The speakers before me have made numerous examples of stories that we have produced as the Daily Dispatch. That has not only won us awards, and we've won numerous accolades over the years, but for us as a newsroom, what really matters at the end of the day is how is that story that we have produced changing the lives of the people who are affected. And that, at the end of the day, for us is a measure of what is a successful expose investigation. It's not about selling papers, it's not about headlines. It's really about giving a voice to those people who do not have it. I mean, Bongani Fasile, where are you? Mr. Fasile, my deputy editor. Bongani Fasile is not only a colleague, but he's someone that I look up to. He is a decorated journalist, one of the best in this country. And he has exposed some of the most atrocious human rights abuses in this province. Bongani has, and I will say this very bluntly, has put his life at risk to bring you the news. And that is often what sets us apart. We are willing to go the extra mile to tell that story no matter what. 2 years ago, during the height of COVID, we, as a newsroom, were investigating a potentially big story. And it got to a point where we actually had to send one of our journalists into hiding because of threats being made against that person's life. And it was difficult for us as a newsroom, you know, where do we draw the line? Do we pursue something, knowing that it could potentially put someone in danger? Or do we just let it go? Yes, we had to obviously make sure that the person who was writing that story was safe, and we done so, but we still pursued the stories. And that is the commitment that I want to make to everyone in this room this evening, that no matter the challenges and no matter what is thrown our way, that we are committed as the Daily Dispatch to the people of the Eastern Cape. And we will continue to be committed to the people of the Eastern Cape and to tell your story. And I'm hoping that all the leaders in the room this evening, that we can all work together towards creating an Eastern Cape that we can all be proud of. Yes. And so I just again want to say thank you to everyone here, and a special thank you to my editorial team. They're all sitting here this evening. Honestly, without you, I don't think I'll be able to stand here this evening. I've got a strong support system. We all share the same values. And honestly, I am truly grateful for having you in my team, and that we come to work every day and we're able to produce a truly amazing paper. And I thank you and hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
Being invited here to share some ideas on the role that fearless and courageous journalism plays in strengthening a democracy is not taken lightly. But I want to do a bit more than that and offer some ideas of how a newspaper like the Daily Dispatch can sustain its brand of journalism while continuing being a financially viable media business. The Dispatch, as we've heard from all the speakers, and as we're about to hear, in this documentary that is going to play, is a feisty small-town newspaper. It has always punched above its weight. It is one newspaper that knows how to produce journalism that holds power and the powerful to account. Not only that, the Dispatch is one of a few newspapers, well, at least that's my view, in the country, that has always fought alongside the poor, the downtrodden, the vulnerable, and the weak. That's what the dispatch is all about. It is always by the side of those that have been labeled by the community. They are weak. They cannot fight for themselves. The dispatch, you will find the dispatch fighting alongside them. Over the years, its journalism has sent many corrupt people to jail, that we know. But for me, it is how the dispatch's brand of courageous journalism and its investigations have led to the change in public policy. I'll give you just 2 examples. The year was 2007, and I remember clearly how the Bishop government had to halt a pilot feeding scheme program that had community-based cooperatives supplying food to primary schools all around the province. This was after an investigation by this newspaper that found that millions of rands had been siphoned off from the program. Despite threats to its journalists and numerous protests outside our Caxton Street newsroom, our reporters never blinked an eye. They continued to report the story as if there were no threats on their lives. Weeks after the first report appeared in the dispatch, the government responded by stopping the program. Months later, the same government came back and announced a new look feeding scheme program. That's the power of local journalism, power of fearless local journalism.
Amen.
I'll give you another one. I don't remember the year, but it was an investigation that was done by 3 of our reporters, Brett Horner, Ndando Makubu, and Shannon Prince, on why newborn babies were dying at Frere Hospital. The series lasted for weeks. It drew a huge criticism from the national government. In fact, it featured in the then letter from the president, the ANC, I think it was in the ANC Today, and the then president used to write a letter, a Friday letter from the president. He dedicated that week's letter to taking on the Daily Dispatch. And our reporters were called names, our reporters were threatened, but it never stopped them. Months later, the late health minister, Manto Shabalala Msimang, came to East London and called a press conference, and she announced a bag of reforms for Frere Hospital, and Frere Hospital has never been the same. That's the power that the dispatch has, the kind of journalism that this newspaper, small as it is known for. These two show just how courageous our journalists have been. There have been threats on their lives because of the work that they do. There were times when journalists of the dispatch had to be provided with protection. I'm one of those. At some point I had to walk and drive around East London for over 2 months with close protection while I was the editor of this newspaper. I'm joking. Quick press conference. I'm joking. But the dispatch is not only courageous. The dispatch is also known for its resilience. It's resilient. The dispatch, just refuses to die. They've tried, but it's very resilient. In the 150 years of its existence, I'm made to believe the paper has not missed one publishing day. Not even during the great floods of the 1980s. Being located in the East London city centre for the longest of time, and given the ruralness of this province, I'm certain that there were times the newspaper was delivered a day or so late. But it's still published, even if it was late. It never missed one publishing day. For me, that's quite an accomplishment, and it's worth celebrating. I listened earlier to the general manager when he was speaking, and the commitment that our CEO just made. And I was moved to hear them assuring all of us that Arena Holdings has no intentions to stop publishing this great newspaper. We may not know what format, but what we are sure of is that there will always be the Daily Dispatch. I often wonder, as someone who really follows media trends, about the newspaper of the future and what it will look like. Some people believe newspapers are headed to an all-digital format. I'm not one of those, as I still believe that there is still life in the printed newspaper. Don't get me wrong, I believe that digital is the future and that this format allows us to provide you with news around the clock. So whether news is delivered in print or in digital, for me that's not really an issue. What is important for me is to make sure that local news operations are financially sustainable and they continue to produce the brand of courageous journalism that the Daily Dispatch is known for. So who knows what the future dispatch will look like? Maybe in future, your favorite newspaper will be delivered through these smart watches that we all wear these days. But what I like is the assurance that even if you get it on this watch, it will still be the Daily Dispatch and it will still be producing courageous journalism.
Sherry.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, how's it?
I can't complain.
Oh, very well.
Thank you so much.
Alala. Ngokuchaza bekumandi apha. Emva kwemuvi. Yes. On camera.